The alien assassin had one weakness. Me asterisk the moment everything changed. Lieutenant Jake Morrison had killed 17 Vorthok warriors before breakfast, which was either a personal record or a cry for help. He couldn't decide which as he stepped through the smoking wreckage of what used to be Outpost Delta 7, his plasma rifle humming with residual heat and his boots crunching over crystallized alien blood. The morning had started normally enough. Terrible coffee, worse orders, and the kind of briefing that made him wonder if command actually wanted them all dead. Routine cleanup, they'd called it. Minimal resistance expected. Jake had learned to translate military speak years ago. Routine meant catastrophic. Minimal meant overwhelming. And expected meant they were flying blind into a meat grinder. But this wasn't routine carnage. This was personal. The Vorthok had taken his entire squad, not killed taken. Their biosignatures had vanished simultaneously from the tracking grid, which meant either mass teleportation or something worse. Jake had seen what the Vorthok did to prisoners. Death was a mercy they rarely offered. He rounded a corner and froze. There, propped against a twisted support beam like a broken doll, sat the most dangerous creature in known space. A Vorthok assassin, her bioarmor cracked and sparking, revealing patches of skin that shimmered with an otherworldly luminescence. Her breathing was labored. Her left arm hung at an impossible angle, and yet her eyes, those impossible amber eyes that seemed to hold liquid fire, tracked his movement with predatory focus. "Well," she said, her voice carrying that musical quality that made human hearts skip beats and human minds forget. "To be afraid, this is embarrassing." Jake's rifle snapped up automatically. Every fiber of his training screamed at him to pull the trigger. Vorthok assassins were engineered killing machines, capable of eliminating entire platoons with their bare hands. They were faster than human reflexes, stronger than human bones could withstand, and more beautiful than human minds could process without going slightly mad. "You speak standard," he said, buying time while his finger found the trigger. "I speak 17 languages. Standard is the easiest, so many delightful ways to threaten people." She shifted slightly, wincing as her armor scraped against the beam. "Though I admit, threats lose some impact when you're bleeding internally and can't feel your legs." Jake's tactical display highlighted her in hostile red, complete with a cheerful reminder that Vorthok assassins were worth a class of bounty, dead or alive. Preferably dead, since alive meant someone had to transport a creature capable of killing with a harsh look and a creative use of office supplies. "Your friends took my squad," he said. "My friends?" She laughed, a sound like silver bells filled. "With poison? Oh, darling, you have no idea how complicated this situation really is. Enlighten me." She studied him with those unnerving eyes, tilting her head in a gesture that was almost curious. "You're not going to shoot me?" "Pretty sure I am, no." She smiled, revealing teeth that were just slightly too sharp, just barely too white. "Because you're wondering why a Vorthok assassin was left behind to die with the humans. You're wondering why my bioarmor is coated with Terran frequency markers. And you're definitely wondering why I'm not trying to kill you despite being in arm's reach from at least 6 vital organs." Jake's finger tightened on the trigger. She was right about all of it, which was both impressive and terrifying. "Maybe you can't move. Maybe I don't want to." The words hung in the recycled air between them, loaded with implications Jake didn't want to consider. His comm crackled with static, then cleared long enough for command to bark orders he couldn't quite make out. Something about extraction in 30 minutes and leaving no evidence. "What's your name?" he asked. Her smile widened. "Giving me a name makes it harder to kill me." "Already hard enough, Zara," she said softly. "My name is Zara Vex, and I've been waiting 3 years for someone like you to find me." Jake lowered his rifle slightly. "Someone like me, someone stupid enough to listen to a dying enemy. I prefer optimistically curious, despite everything, the blood, the wreckage, the fact that she could probably still kill him with her shoelaces." Zara Vex laughed. It was a real laugh this time, surprised and genuine, and it hit Jake like a sonic boom to the chest. "Well, Jake Morrison," she said, reading his name tag with those impossible eyes. "What happens now?" The impossible choice. Jake's extraction window was closing fast. and Command's increasingly frantic radio calls suggested they'd noticed his delayed check-in. 23 minutes to get to the rendezvous point, which was approximately 22 minutes longer than it should take him to put a plasma bolt through Zaravex's head and move on with his life. Instead, he found himself kneeling beside her, running a medical scanner over wounds that should have killed any normal being twice over. Internal bleeding, 3 cracked ribs, and something that looks like a ruptured power cell in your bioarmor. He reported, "How are you still conscious?" Stubbornness and spite, Zara replied, though her voice was getting weaker. "Also, I may have mentioned we're genetically modified for survival. Takes more than a building collapse to kill us. What about plasma fire? That would do it." Jake's calm erupted with static, then cleared enough for him to hear Captain Reynolds' voice. "Morrison, report your status immediately. We have Vorthic reinforcements inbound." At 15 minutes. 15 minutes. Jake looked at Zara, who was watching him with an expression he couldn't read. Those amber eyes held secrets, pain, and something that might have been hope. "The frequency markers in your armor," he said suddenly. "You're not just any Vorthic assassin. No." She closed her eyes, and for a moment looked impossibly young. "I'm the one who's been feeding intelligence to your resistance cells for 3 years. The one who's been sabotaging Vorthic operations from the inside. The one Command has been calling Ghost." Jake's world tilted sideways. Ghost was a legend among human forces, the mysterious insider who'd prevented a dozen massacres, saved countless lives, and single-handedly kept the human resistance alive during the darkest months of the war. Ghost was also supposed to be a human double agent working within Vorthic Command structure. "That's impossible, is it?" Zara opened her eyes again, fixing him with that unsettling stare. "Your people assume anyone helping them must be human. You never considered that some of us might be just as tired of this war as you are. Why? Why help your species?" She shifted, trying to find a more comfortable position against the beam. "Because this war was supposed to end 2 years ago. Because my people's leadership has become corrupted by power and conquest. Because I've seen what happens to civilizations that forget mercy." She paused, breathing carefully. "And because I've been in love with human culture. Since I first intercepted your entertainment broadcasts, romantic comedies, specifically. You have no idea how revolutionary the concept of happily ever after is to a species engineered for eternal conflict." Jake stared at her. "You became a double agent because of rom-coms, among other things. Your music is lovely too, and the way you make food into art instead of just fuel, it's beautiful." His calm crackled again. "Morrison, acknowledge immediately, or we're designating you Kier and leaving without you." 10 minutes left. Jake made a decision that would either save the war or end his career. Possibly both. "Can you walk?" "Not without help." "Good thing I'm here then." He holstered his rifle and moved to her uninjured side. "This is going to hurt. Everything hurts already. What's a little more?" But she gripped his arm as he helped her to her feet, her fingers surprisingly strong despite her injuries. "There's an emergency bunker 3 clicks north," Jake said, supporting most of her weight as they began moving through the rubble. "Medical supplies, communication equipment. We?" Zara looked at him sideways. "You're really going to help me?" "Ghost saved my brother's unit on Kepler 7. Saved my sister's refugee transport at the Titan Station siege. Hell, Ghost probably saved my life a dozen times over without me knowing it." Jake paused at what used to be a doorway, checking for movement outside. "I owe Ghost. You owe a stranger. I'm Vorthic. You're Ghost. I'm also the enemy." Jake turned to face her fully, close enough now to see the flecks of gold in her amber eyes, close enough to smell the ozone scent of her bioarmor, and something underneath that was purely her. "Are you?" The question hung between them as explosions echoed in the distance. Vorthic reinforcements, arriving ahead of schedule. Jake's extraction window was gone. His backup was retreating, and he was alone in hostile territory with the most wanted Vorthic in known space. "No," Zara said quietly. "I'm not your enemy, Jake Morrison." "Then let's get out of here before your friends arrive." "They're not my friends either." As they limped through the destroyed outpost toward an uncertain sanctuary, Jake couldn't shake the feeling that he'd just made the most important decision of his life. Whether it was also the stupidest remained to be seen. Sanctuary and Secret's the emergency bunker had been designed to house for humans for 2 weeks. With Jake's broad shoulders and Zara's bioarmor taking up space, it felt more like a closet with delusions of grandeur. The medical bay was barely large enough for one person, which meant Jake spent 20 uncomfortable minutes patching up a genetically modified alien assassin while trying not to think about how her skin seemed to shimmer in the bunker's artificial light. "Your hands are shaking," Zara observed as he sealed the last of her external wounds with biofoam. "It's been a long day. It's been a long 3 years." She flexed her newly repaired arm, testing the range of motion. "I've been wondering when someone would finally put the pieces together." Jake activated the bunker's communication array, hoping to reach friendly forces. Instead, he got static interference and what sounded suspiciously like a Vorthok battle hymn. The whole sector's gone dark. Either we're being jammed or there's no one left to talk to. Probably both. Zara had managed to partially remove her bioarmor, revealing a form-fitting suit underneath that did absolutely nothing to help Jake's concentration. The attack on Delta 7 was a trap. My handlers suspected Ghost's true identity. They used your squad as bait to flush you out, to eliminate us both, to problems solved with one ambush. She moved to the bunker's single viewport, gazing out at the alien landscape. "Though I suspect they didn't expect you to be quite so adaptable." Jake joined her. At the window, outside, the twin suns of Kepler Prime were setting, painting the sky in shades of purple and gold. In the distance, energy signatures bloomed and faded, the ongoing battle between human and Vorthok forces. A war that had consumed both their peoples for 5 brutal years. "How long have you known?" he asked. "About being Ghost. I mean, about wanting to end this." "Since the massacre at New Brisbane." Zara's reflection in the viewport looked haunted. "I was part of the strike team. We were told it was a military target. Instead, we found families, children, a school." She closed her eyes. "I killed 3 human soldiers that day before I realized they weren't fighting back. They were protecting evacuation routes." Jake remembered New Brisbane. Every human did. 2,000 civilians dead in 30 minutes. "I changed sides that night," Zara continued. "Started small equipment failures, missed intelligence reports, communication delays. Then bigger things, troop movements, supply lines, battle plans." She turned to face him. "I told myself I was saving lives, ending the war faster. But really, I was trying to wash the blood off my hands. Did it work? What do you think?" Jake studied her face, seeing pain and guilt and something that might have been hope. "I think you've saved more lives than you've taken. That has to count for something, does it? When I dream, I still see those children. When I wake up, I'm still Vorthok, still the enemy. Not to me." The words came out before Jake could stop them, hanging in the recycled air between them like a confession. Zara stared at him, those impossible amber eyes searching his face for something he wasn't sure he understood himself. "Jake, I know what you are," he said, moving closer without really meaning to. "I know what you've done. Hell, I know what you could do to me right now if you wanted. But I also know what you've sacrificed, what you've given up. And I know that somewhere in the last few hours, I stopped seeing you as Vorthok and started seeing you as what? As someone worth saving." Zara's breath caught, a sound barely audible above the bunker's life support systems. "This is insane. You're human. I'm genetically modified for warfare. We're from different species, different worlds, different sides of a war that's killed millions. Yeah, there are probably regulations against fraternizing with the enemy. Definitely. Your people would call it treason. My people aren't here." She was close enough now that he could see the pattern of her bioluminescent markings, swirling designs that pulsed faintly with her heartbeat. Close enough to realize that despite everything, the war, the differences, the impossibility of it all, he was falling for an alien assassin who quoted romantic comedies and sabotaged her own people to save his. "This is the stupidest thing I've ever considered," Zara whispered. "What is kissing you?" Jake's heart did something complicated involving stopping and racing simultaneously. "Just so we're clear, that's stupider than becoming a double agent and betraying your entire species, much stupider. Good, Jake said, reaching up to cup her face in his hands, marveling at how her skin felt like silk over steel. I was starting to feel inadequate. When their lips met, Jake understood why first contact protocols warned against getting too close to Vorthok. It wasn't because they were dangerous, though they absolutely were. It was because they were intoxicating. Kissing Zero was like touching lightning, like breathing starfire, like every cliché he'd ever mocked in those romantic comedies she apparently loved. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, Zara rested her forehead against his. "We're going to die out here," she said softly. "Probably. Both our peoples will hunt us down. Most likely. This can't possibly end well." Jake smiled, pulling her closer. "Then we better make the most of it. The hunt begins." Jake woke to the sound of scanning equipment and the uncomfortable realization that their sanctuary had been compromised. Zero was already moving, her bioarmor responding to her heightened stress levels by shifting into combat configuration. The shimmer of her skin had deepened to an almost metallic gleam, and her eyes now held flecks of silver that definitely hadn't been there the night before. "3 ships," she whispered, checking the bunker's sensor array, "to Vorthok hunters, and 1 human destroyer. They're working together." Working together? Jake grabbed his rifle, checking the charge. "That's impossible, is it? Think about it, Jake. What's the one thing both our militaries fear more than losing this war?" The answer hit him like a plasma bolt to the chest, ending it. A Vorthok assassin and a human soldier who've gone rogue, sharing classified intelligence, proving that peace is possible. Zara's laugh was bitter. "We're not just traitors anymore, darling. We're a threat to the entire war machine." Jake's tactical training kicked in as he studied the sensor readings. The ships had established a search perimeter, methodically scanning every structure, every cave, every possible hiding spot. They had maybe an hour before the grid tightened enough to find the bunker. "There's a maintenance tunnel system," he said, calling up the bunker's schematics. "Leads to an old mining complex about 10 kilometers north. If we can reach it, we can't." Zara pointed to the energy signatures surrounding them. "They've deployed atmosphere scramblers. The moment we leave this bunker, our biosignatures will light up like a supernova. Then we make a stand here, against 3 capital ships. Jake, I'm good, but I'm not miracle good." He turned to face her, taking in the way her combat armor made her look like some ancient warrior goddess. Beautiful and terrible and utterly alien. "Then what do you suggest?" "I suggest," said a new voice from the bunker's communication system, "that you listen very carefully to what I'm about to tell you." Jake's blood turned to ice. The voice was human, but it carried command authority and the kind of confidence that came with having superior firepower. On the comm screen, a face appeared, weathered, scarred, with the 1,000-yard stare of someone who'd seen too much war. "Colonel Hayes," Jake breathed, "his former commanding officer. The man who'd trained him, mentored him, and according to official records, died in the Battle of Centauri Station 6 months ago." "Hello, Morrison, Miss Vex." Hayes nodded to each of them in turn. "I apologize for the dramatic entrance, but we needed to make sure you were really working together before we revealed ourselves." Zara stepped closer to the screen, her posture suggesting she was ready to fight something she couldn't even touch. "The Coalition. Humans in Vorthok who've decided this war has gone on long enough." Hayes smiled grimly. "Congratulations, you two. You've just become the most important people in the galaxy." Jake's mind reeled. "Coalition? But that's impossible, treasonous, absolutely insane." Hayes chuckled. "Yes, it's all of those things. It's also the only way this war ends without both our species destroying each other." The screen split, showing a second face, unmistakably Vorthok, with the same bioluminescent markings as Zara but older, bearing scars that spoke of countless battles. "I am Commander Thane," the Vorthok said, his accent making the standard words sound like poetry. "Like your Colonel Hayes, I am officially dead. It makes clandestine peace negotiations much easier." "Peace negotiations?" Zara looked stunned. "But the hegemony would never." "The hegemony is fracturing," Thane interrupted. "There are those among us who remember what we were before we became conquerors, who believe in the old ways, before the war consumed everything we held sacred." Hayes leaned forward on the screen, Morrison, in approximately 30 minutes. Those ships up there are going to detect an incoming asteroid storm. Very dangerous, very unpredictable. They'll have no choice but to retreat to a safe distance. Except there's no asteroid storm, Jake said, understanding. Exactly. While they're dealing with our fictional natural disaster, you two are going to slip away through those maintenance tunnels you were looking at. There's a transport waiting at the mining complex, one of ours. And then, Zara asked, then we take you to people who need to hear your story. Human and Vorthic leaders who are ready to listen. Ready to consider that maybe there's a better way than mutual annihilation. Jake looked at Zara, seeing his own mix of hope and terror reflected in her amber eyes. What if we're wrong? What if this coalition of yours is just another faction trying to use us? Then we die, she said simply. But at least we die trying to build something better. Commander Thane spoke again. Miss Vex, your intelligence network saved my daughter's unit on Rigel 7. Lieutenant Morrison, your tactical analysis prevented the bombing of our medical stations on 3 separate occasions. You have both already proven that cooperation is possible. The question now, Hayes added, is whether you're willing to bet everything on the chance that it's sustainable. Jake thought about his squad, about the endless cycle of violence, about waking up every morning wondering if today would be the day he stopped seeing the enemy as people. Then he looked at Zara, who had risked everything to save lives on both sides, who had shown him that even in the middle of a war, love could bloom in the most impossible places. What do we have to do? Hayes smiled. Survive the next few hours. Everything else we'll figure out together. As if summoned by his words, alarms began blaring throughout the bunker. The asteroid storm had arrived, and with it, their only chance at escape, ready to run toward an uncertain future with an alien rebel in a coalition of dead people. Jake asked, checking his weapons one last time. Zara's grin was sharp and wild and absolutely perfect. Darling, that's the most romantic thing anyone's ever said to me. The future we chooseth mining complex was a tomb of rusted metal and broken dreams, but to Jake it looked like salvation. He and Zara had made the 10-kilometer journey through maintenance tunnels, filled with everything from toxic gas to automated defense systems that apparently didn't distinguish between human and Vorthok targets. They'd emerged bruised, exhausted, and somehow still alive into a cavern that housed what might have been the most beautiful sight Jake had ever seen, a coalition transport ship. It wasn't much to look at, a hybrid design that combined human durability with Vorthic elegance, cobbled together from salvaged parts and desperate innovation. But it represented something that hadn't existed a week ago. Proof that their species could build something together instead of just destroying each other. It's gorgeous, Zara breathed, and Jake realized she was crying, actual tears, which according to everything he knew about Vorthic physiology should have been impossible. Since when do your people cry? Since we started hoping, she replied, wiping her eyes with the back of her hand. It's apparently a side effect of prolonged exposure to human optimism. The ship's airlock cycled open, revealing a mixed crew that would have been unthinkable just days before. Humans and Vorthic working side by side, no weapons drawn, no hostility in their postures. They looked tired, hopeful, and absolutely determined. Colonel Hayes stepped forward, no longer just a voice on a comm screen, but a solid presence radiating the kind of confidence that made people follow him into impossible situations. Welcome to the coalition, both of you. I wish I could say this was going to be easy. Easy is overrated, Jake replied, though his heart was hammering as he took in the full implications of what they were walking into. What happens now? Now we go home, said Commander Thane, approaching from the ship's bridge. Up close, the Vorthic leader was even more imposing, taller than Zara, with scars that told stories of battles Jake couldn't imagine, but his eyes held the same exhausted hope Jake had seen in every veteran who'd simply seen too much. To both our worlds, together, the coalition has been preparing for this moment for 2 years, Hayes explained as they boarded the ship. Secret negotiations, underground networks, proof that peace is possible. But we needed something more than diplomatic theory. We needed a symbol, a human soldier and a Vorthic assassin who chose love over war, Thane added. To people who prove that our species can not only coexist but care for each other. Jake felt Zara's hand slip into his, her fingers intertwining with his in a gesture that was becoming wonderfully familiar. "No pressure," she murmured. The ship's interior was a marvel of cooperative engineering, human efficiency married to Vorthic artistry, creating spaces that were both functional and beautiful. As they were led to the bridge, Jake saw crew members sharing meals, comparing notes, even laughing together. It was the future he'd never dared to imagine. "Status report," Hayes called as they reached the bridge. "Both fleets are mobilizing," reported a human communications officer. "Word of the coalition is spreading. Some are calling for immediate military response. And others," Thane asked, "others are asking to hear our terms," replied a Vorthic technician whose bioluminescent markings pulsed with what Jake was learning to recognize as cautious excitement. Zara squeezed Jake's hand as they took in the tactical displays showing fleet movements throughout human and Vorthic space. "This is really happening. The hardest part comes next," Hayes warned. "Selling peace to people who've been at war for 5 years. Convincing leaders on both sides that cooperation isn't just possible, it's necessary." "What's our argument?" Jake asked. "You are," Thane replied simply. "Your story. Your choice to see past the uniform and the bioarmor to the person underneath. If a human soldier and a Vorthic assassin can fall in love, surely our civilizations can learn to coexist." The ship lurched slightly as it entered hyperspace, leaving the battlefield behind and heading for a rendezvous with history. Jake watched Starlines streak past the viewports and felt the weight of what they were attempting settle on his shoulders. "What if we fail?" he asked. "What if this just makes things worse?" "Then we fail together," Zara said, her amber eyes bright with determination. "But Jake, look around you. Look at this crew, this ship, this moment. We've already succeeded in ways that matter. We've proven change is possible." Hayes moved to the captain's chair, looking every inch the leader who could unite two species against impossible odds. "ETA to the neutral zone, 6 hours. That's how long we have to prepare for the most important first contact in galactic history." "No pressure," Jake echoed Zara's earlier words, earning a smile from the woman who'd become his partner in every sense of the word. As the coalition ship carried them toward an uncertain but hopeful future, Jake realized that sometimes the most important battles weren't fought with weapons or tactics. Sometimes they were fought with trust, with understanding, with the radical notion that enemies could become allies, that war could become peace, and that love could bloom, even in the darkest corners of the galaxy. He looked at Zara, who was studying the star charts with the intense focus of someone planning for a future she'd never dared to dream possible. Her bioluminescent markings pulsed softly in the bridge's gentle lighting, and Jake marveled at how something that had once seemed alien and dangerous now looked like the most beautiful thing he'd ever seen. "Ready to change the galaxy?" he asked. "With you?" Zara turned to face him, her smile bright enough to outshine the stars racing past outside. "I'm ready for anything." Behind them, the coalition crew continued their work, humans and Vorthic united in purpose, building bridges across the void of war. And ahead of them waited a future that no one could predict, but everyone could help create. The alien assassin's weakness hadn't been Jake Morrison after all. It had been hope, the most dangerous and powerful force in any galaxy. The end.